Well, welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so glad that you're all here tonight for this screening of Since I've Been Down. It's an amazing film. It's a beautiful film. It's a heart-wrenching film, and it's also a hopeful film. And I'm so glad that we get to talk about it a little bit with not only the filmmaker, who is a fierce force in herself, Gilda Sheppard. Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you.
You have so many other credits. I can't mention them all, but I have been a fan for a long time. So this is a delight to get to speak to you formally now about this movie. We're also joined by Tonya Wilson, who is the re-entry outreach coordinator for the Freedom Project of Washington, and also, well, I'm not getting into the senatorial stuff because we're going to try to leave politics out of this as much as we can.
Yes,
I like what they
please.
said about politics in the movie. So, Tonya, it's great to have you here and all the work you're doing. And even though he thinks of himself as plain old Kimonti Carter, anybody who watches this movie knows that he's practically super heroic, a man who's done more while incarcerated than most humans do outside. So Kimonti Carter, welcome as well. You're calling in, so can you hold up the phone just so we can see?
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. I want to, it's not a spoiler since everybody watched the movie. I want to start at the end of the movie, essentially, with a big question, and we're not going to tackle it, but what is justice? After all of this, what is justice? And Tonya, I'd like to start with you. That's okay.
That is okay, because when we talked about justice after seeing the movie and like all the disparate parts of it come together so beautifully, and thinking about what justice is, I had read in a book that justice is balance. It's about balance. It's about bringing things back into the harmony of the laws of nature. And so the example I like to give is when we think about wild animals in the Serengeti or somewhere in the wilds of any jungle, and we see first that tiger attack that gazelle, and we're so horrified at the violence of it. But then we see that mother take that meat back to her cubs, and how she has to fight and scrabble for the existence of her cubs. That is nature imbalance. And so justice in its real form has nothing to do with any system that man makes. It's about bringing things back into harmony when they have gotten somehow out of whack, when they've gotten somehow skewed to one side in favor of one kind of existence over another kind. And I think that we see that there is like systemic injustice in those terms, that the laws of the land have skewed things in favor of the existence of one group of people at the expense of another. And it's not just people who are of color, but it's people who are poor, people who have mental health challenges, people who are coming back from being soldiers for this country, and people who are always other. There's always an other to have that balance out of whack. And so I think that justice is about balance. And if we can think about things in terms of not United States legal system fairness, or even the fairness that of the blind lady with the scales, if we can think of it in terms of putting things back into a holistic balance, then we will be closer to justice than we ever were in any other way of thinking.
You shouldn't be working for a senator. You should be senator. Let's go with that. Let's go with that. That's a beautiful way to look at it. Gilda, both of you and I are guilty of being in the academic world, but you also have the soul and the heart of an artist. So I'm curious what your take on justice is, especially after hearing from Tonya.
Yeah, well, in addition to what Tonya said, that justice is the process of bringing things back to balance. It looks at the unbalance when things are not in balance, and attempts to bring about healing and possibility. So I think justice is ever present. I used to think about justice related to crime and disparities. I didn't think, as Marco in the film says, this class teach the program teach that Kimonti Carter and his colleagues develop. That's justice. The ability to have a healing process, the ability to to create a beloved community, the ability and the chance to create a beloved community across significant differences. That is the practice of justice. It's like what Brian Stevenson said about poverty. He says the answer to poverty is not wealth. The answer to poverty is justice. And so it's that imbalance, but it's that balance too. It is something that I think that helps to develop a beloved community so that we don't need prisons. Justice is not sending someone to prison. Justice is creating an environment. We talk about juvenile justice so that we don't need prisons and we can dismantle the culture of punishment. So, I mean, I believe it though. I think we have just enough time starting now.
We're going to do it in the next 16 minutes. We're going to get it done. I'm so on board, but Kimonti, I have to ask you, like, you have experienced the most perverted concept of American justice, which is really punitive. And I'm curious about how you feel about that notion of justice. Can you cling to an ideal like Gilda or Tonya trumpet, or do you see it differently from your perspective?
A different length of justice.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I think that how Tonya, how Dr. Sheppard really stated it, man. I think it really provides the essence, right? When we're talking about balance, we're talking about restoration, right? I think it definitely, and to add anything, I just think that the process just needs to include. I think it needs to include a person's humanity. I think, and we also have to be able to consider that humanity with love as well, right? Because I think that when you try to, I think it's impossible for you to be able to be just from a position of animosity or a position of retribution or from a position of trauma, right? I think that when we talk about justice, restoration is key, right? Because we're trying to restore an imbalance that has occurred, whether it's for a person who has been a victim or a person who has been a victimizer. And I think that and just using teach as an example, right? Like regardless of what a person's political beliefs were, regardless of what your criminal background was, or any of the wrongs that you've done in the past, right? We was trying to create a culture where we considered and looked at each other's humanity as all the same, right? Where no one deserves favor and no one deserves any obstacles placed in their way from being able to make the decisions that they needed to in order to heal and to grow like we would want for one another. And I think that that right there was really trying to love even strangers in a place that we realized was a place that was kind of placed at a disadvantage. And so justice really it needs to include love, right? Because I think that without love we're incapable of being able to recognize each other's humanity.
I think that's gorgeous, Kimonti, and it would be so easy for me to describe you as saintly based on that thought, but here's where it really strikes me is that you clearly have love in your heart. You clearly have love in your heart for others. You clearly have love in your heart for people who didn't have love in heart for you initially, right? And there is a fairly staggering system in place that is not ready for love whatsoever, it would seem. Yet you seem to keep that hope and that love alive. And frankly, I'm just desperate for what your secret is. how you do that, how you embrace hope, how you embrace others, how you resist hate, because it seems like it would be so easy.
Mhm.
Right. And I would say my only answer to that, right, is, for me, as I think about how my brain works, it's pretty simple, right? Because giving up isn't an option.
Right.
And so, right, when I look at the options that I have in front of me, right, giving up isn't one of my choices. And so now I have to really be able to honestly look at my environment. I have to honestly look at myself, and I have to honestly, I have to honestly approach every solution how I believe is the best way to address it. And so, when we get to talking about forgiveness, right? Like if I'm holding resentment in my heart for others, then how can I even fix my lips to ask someone to forgive me for the misdeeds that I've done? Right. And so, and I just think that we have to be honest with self, right? We have to be able to address the hypocrisy that sometimes that we hold in our heart, right? This double standard, right? The stuff that we want for family, but we don't want for strangers, because if you're an activist, if you're advocating against undoing wrongs and biases and racism and prejudice and all the things that's wrong with our society, then we also have to be able to not just act, right, but we also have to practice exactly what those energies look like in order for them to hopefully be emulated by the system that we're trying to change. And for me, like I said, it's simple, right? Giving up isn't an option. We can't. We have to believe that change is possible in order for us to be able to approach change and to fight for change. And I believe in my heart of hearts that the work that we're doing, will make a difference, right? Does everybody believe that? From their behavior, it's clear that they don't, right? But I believe that, that we can get there.
I hear you, and Tonya, it looked like there was either going to be an amen or a rebuttal.
I was everything, like, because Gilda and I, like, these ideas are that we have had between each other have been refined. We think about them. I'm so sorry. Somebody keeps calling me. We think about them and consider how they already interact with the worldview that we have. And one thing Gilda used to say to us as her students was, practice is the criteria of truth, right? And so in order for something to be true, it has to be something that could be practiced. And I think that what Kimonti is talking about, what Teach has done, what the Women's Village has done, what BPC, the Black Prisoners Caucus, does, is show people how to love in a way. Like, we have these ideas of romantic love or filial love or agape, like these words that in practice don't come across as their fundamental truth. And so when we're practicing love, it doesn't, or forgiveness, it doesn't have to be something that is steeped in sentimentality. It doesn't have to be steeped in romanticism. It doesn't have to be steeped in even the religiosity of forgiveness. It just needs to be something that is practiced in truth, and that is not underpinned by that hypocrisy. That is underpinned by something that is bigger, that is about acknowledging people's humanity. And so when I hear Kimonti speak, and I'm like, ooh, it just always brings it back to full circle about how interconnected all these things are. And the first one is seeing people, and Black bodies are not usually seen as people. And so we're not seen for our humanity. We're seen for the danger that is inherent in that definition of Black body. And until we can see that with humanity, then we won't ever be able to see it with love. And so
I hear you. I always think of it as, and it's sort of an idealistic way to look at it, is that our biggest problem is we have a compassion deficit. We don't love humans equally That seems to be a real crisis. Gilda, did you want to?
I just want to
Tonya?
say, Tonya mentioned the women's village, and that's not so much highlighted in the film at all. Tonya and her colleagues started the women's village, where the Black Princess Caucus is now a 50-year organization, but Tonya and her colleagues started the women's village, and the women's prison, where Tonya was the most violent prison in Washington state at one point. When she and her colleagues started the Women's Village, a prisoner-initiated program that involved tutoring, kinds of summits on environmental justice, feminization of poverty, and parenting, and all those, and also peer counseling. The violence at that prison went down by 50%. So practice. It was not just affirming love and preaching about it, but enacting healing circles, as Tonya says, just like Kimonti, stepping into your brave space. So I just want to tell you that, what she has done as well. So it just said Kimonti has 60 seconds, but he can call back.
Call me back, bro. Call
Call back if that would be great.
Okay. Hang up now.
I will say that one, it sounded like you were pitching a sequel, Gilda, and I think that's well deserved for Tonya. I'm
gonna let Tonya write a memoir.
Tanya's gonna do many other wonderful things.
Yeah. So multiple sequels. One of the things I love is that sometimes you'll see stories about incarceration or people who are released, and it becomes sort of singular. What I appreciate so much about this movie is that it's really not, even though we meet Tonya, we meet Kimonti, we meet others, it's really about those individuals' efforts to spread this information and this love and this hope. And Gil, I want to start with you because it's, I'm so impressed with the Teach program, and hopefully Kimonti will be back for that. I'm so impressed with it. I think there's so much right about it, which I want to talk to Kimonti about. But from your position at Evergreen, what do you see Teach doing that really should be brought back out to higher ed?
Right. I think when Evergreen talks about being student-centered, right, and the building of a learning community, right, and the importance of working across significant differences in order to do that, right, and bringing up those hard conversations, critical thinking conversation in a classroom where your language does not muffle someone else's language. I see it being actualized, practiced, and being a model that is the groundwork of this, of the Teach program, of teaching and learning. It is hard sometimes for academics to move away from the podium, even if there isn't a podium, even if you're sitting in a circle doing a seminar, right? But to dare to put the spotlight, to say, this is the syllabus, this is the academic program, but leave room open for the student to not only breathe and just say, and you get a chance to do this, but to create, I dare say, themselves as an educator, and bring, I think, dare to bring their life into these, I'm a sociologist, these dense sociological theories. And instead of just spouting off what Auguste Comte said, or even W.B. Du Bois said, saying that, but connecting it to their life. And that's what I think is so profound with the Black Prisoners Caucus and Teach, is that they embody themselves, their mind, their biography And, I teach, when I was starting to teach sociology, I use this concept called sociological imagination, where you look at your biography and how policies and historical context inform, not determine, but inform your biography. Oftentimes sometimes, not always, but sometimes in the classroom, and this is me as an educator, I don't encourage really their lives in it as the arc of understanding this theory. How do you see this? What is postmodernism? Define it and then find it in your life, right? Or you come up with a concept and find it in your life and inform that theory. I see sometimes a bifurcation. And Evergreen, I'm not saying Evergreen doesn't do this. Evergreen tries to do this and does it, but the Teach program, embodies it in a more concrete way, the kind of, and you get a chance to talk about how, just like when Chad said, I took a class from Marco on Central America, and I didn't realize that we had some things in common. There's sometimes not a space for a person to talk about their learning in that way, unless it's at the end, you do an evaluation of your learning. And this is punctuated throughout the Teach program. You say, what did you learn? How did you learn it? How is it connected to me? And how is it connected to whomever you call other? And how, if you all come together, this solidarity of another world is possible. And I think that's what I learned from Teach. And the whole idea of non-punishing. Oh, you don't know how to do this concept? That one time in the scene where this one young man is talking about Kant, Immanuel Kant, and he said, oh man, it's difficult. And so Kimonti said, so talk to me. And he said, I thought you said it was a difficult read, man. He says, well, I don't know. It is a difficult read. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. And Kimonti immediately uplifts the sky. It doesn't mean that you're right or wrong. It's what you think about it. So you approach it. His approach was to be like, I want to know what you think about it. And what you think about it is the profundity, the proximity to the possibility of this theory or this theorist. And I'm never the same teacher, even if I'm sitting in a cocktail lounge, not only in the classroom, and also my ability to listen, to actively, radically listen,
Well, I'm so glad you mentioned that moment, because that moment stood out to me too, Kimonti. And as I've taught at every grade level for 35 years now, and I've always thought for myself that my job is not to tell people what to think, but help people think. And I saw you embody that in that moment when you said, like, it's about your interpretation and your interpretation. And it's almost like Oprah giving away interpretations. Like it's open to everybody's interpretation. But that you embodied what it took me years to figure out about education. So I just marvel at your skill in doing that. And frankly, but I imagine that there's sometimes resistance to that from people you've dealt with. And how do you get through the hurdle of the people who don't have the self-confidence or they're insecure? How do you help somebody up in that moment?
Right, and I think that, when guys are, let's say intimidating, right? Wants to give up, right? Or like they just may be, stubborn, stuck in their ways and really don't want to, really grasp onto the ideas, that we're sharing, right? And I think even in those times, right, that's okay, right? It's okay to be wrong, right? And sometimes I'm one of the first to admit in the classroom that I may not even be right. This is just my idea that I'm just choosing to share, right? Yeah. As I read and try to whether we're talking about text or concepts or theories, right? This is just my way. This is how I read it. This is what I see, right? And not saying that I'm right or wrong. However, let's talk about it, right? What does it mean to you? because I think that when we're talking about, having a conversation about theories or concepts in a group setting, right? Being able to apply the concept is just also is even more important than just reading the definition, right? Because now we have to use it how we think that they meant for it to be used, right? And most guys who have not went on to college, have no other disciplines to kind of lean on, right? All we have to lean on is our lives, is our lived experiences. And so what we're using is we're using the neighborhoods, the communities, the institutions that we have that we've come in contact with as a reference point, right? But I think that even then, right, we're still encouraging people to agree to disagree. It's okay for us. It's okay for you to be right, and it's okay for both of y'all to be right. Right, because what we're talking about is your perspective, how you look, how you're looking at it, And I think that sometimes we have to be okay with not making it seem like someone is wrong in order for someone else to be right. Right, and I think that's important in a classroom where we're really dealing with people who already have whose confidence is already fragile already, right? Their experience with education isn't that great, right? There's been a lot of disappointments, and many of the guys who are especially in prison, with their interactions with the education system. And I think that one of the things that I've been able to really lean on with regards to how I teach, is all of the things that teachers did wrong in the classroom, right? Being able to recognize is like, yeah, that's not how you're supposed to interact with people when someone is already struggling. Not to just beat them down and berate them even more, right? It creates the opposite of what you're trying to create, right? Which is a student who is eager and is passionate and wants to continue on. And so, I think that every student is going to be unique. Right. One thing I've always told my facilitators when we are starting up a new quarter, right, like every class isn't going to be a perfect class, right? This quarter, you might have a room full of students who everybody is getting in on time and everybody's clicking on the same page and everything is great, right? Everybody's engaging in a conversation. Then you might have another quarter where nobody gets it, right? Everybody is struggling, fumbling through everything, the homework. There's some people who ain't doing the homework. And at those moments, we still have to be as patient as we was with the last group. Because at the end of the day, it's really about patience. It's really about being able to make sure that student is struggling, that eventually he gets it. And then the classroom is supporting him in his journey. Because it's about all of us making it to the end together. It's not about just getting through a curriculum or getting through a couple of chapters in order to say that we've done it. And that's just something that I've really been able to learn, incorporate, and just hope that over time that it's something that has been able to stick. And then some of those guys who didn't get it early on are also some of the guys who end up growing up to be the best students. Is what I've learned.
I love that, and it's a parallel to a bigger societal thing. But like as teachers, we should be judged by the students struggling the most and how much we've worked to help them. That's everything. Earlier I said that Tonya should be senator. Kimonti, you should be dean any place I teach, please. Save me a lot of time and heartache.
Yeah.
Tonya, a question for you. Going through the reentry process, I've seen that education seems to be a critical component. I've had the good fortune, in addition to being aware of these programs through the film, of also knowing Ari Cohn and the Post-Prison Education Project. And I see that education makes a difference. For you, what do you think are the key ingredients to make reentry successful?
Oh, Lord, baby Jesus. Okay, now listen. When you think about, Gilda's film was going to be called a different name. It was going to be called Swinging with No Hands, right?
Right.
And I can think of getting off of that set of monkey bars that's called the prison industrial complex as that. And I did not stick the landing. And I don't think that the landing is something that you can stick.
Right.
Now, there might be times where, and I was able to navigate society. I had a great set of support, family-wise, friends. I had interests, I had goals, and I had myself, which I'm my best resource. But what is very difficult to prepare for, what I don't think anyone, and me and Kimonti and Gilda and I have as well, had these conversations, is that internal transition and how you need to become the person that you have never been, to walk in a world that you have never inhabited. And so you're walking in an existence in a place that you have only dreamt about. And so I think that we need time to be. And what's so horrible about reality, I mean, and it is reality, but I'm so glad, I am glad that people are recognizing it, mostly in King County now, but I think that it will be an avalanche. The tipping point is coming because it can't not come. Is that you can't under-resource somebody and think that they're not going to stay in survival mode. And you can be under-resourced in many different ways. And the most fundamental way to be under-resourced is emotionally and psychologically. And prison is inherently traumatizing. And so I don't think that none of us, this is one of the fundamental principles of the Freedom Project where I work right now, is that we don't need to change. We're brilliant. Kimonti is in prison for 777 years. And this guy is brilliant. He doesn't need to change. He won't ever need to change. He will need the space to heal. And so what we need from society is that space. And what comes along with that space is to be resourced in that space to heal. And those resources are material, financial, emotional. Like they come with a ticket. And we have to be willing to pay the cost of that ticket. And then we need to just be, and you know, one of my guys who had done a long time too, he was also a juvenile, and I was like, man, dude, how are you doing it? Like, I'm freaking out, I can't settle down. He was like, Ta, it's part of the process. Everything that you're going through is part of the process, and you just need to trust the process, because there will become a day where after, like, it's like losing somebody, and that grief process happens. You eventually come back to stasis, and you're like, okay, you get that equilibrium. That is justice. But society needs to give us the space and time to heal, to get to that stasis. And unfortunately, we don't give a lot of people, and we don't give each other that space to heal. And so it's always do instead of be, or, you know, do, as the guru said. We need to be able to do and be and do and be and do and be. And I pray that the work that I continue to do, that Gilda continues to do, that Kimonti continues to do, that you, Warren, Etheredge, continue to do, is allowing people to have that space to just be first, and then figure out how they do in that space where they're being. That's justice.
So that's what
I told you. I told you, they are my teachers.
I feel the same. I'm pulling up my little school desk. There we go. I love that, and I think Kimonti, I believe, is the person who said it in the film, talked about this thing. It's like you can't change who you are, what you did, but you can be a better version of you, right? And to your point, Tonya, I feel like that's one of the things that privilege allows, systemically. Privilege allows people who are privileged the space to be better versions of themselves, but the system doesn't do a very good job of letting others be their better selves.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Very sad.
Poverty
Kimonti,
doesn't allow people to
Oh,
be better versions of themselves.
right?
did you hear what he said? Poverty doesn't allow it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, so a guy that I know named David Heppard says that the answer to crime is not more police, it's more resources.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
And you see the connection of class and race in a lot of these things.
Mhm.
I want to make sure we get an update, Kimonti, because I know we cover, one possibility of clemency in the film. And then I was just reading something today that there may be another opportunity in March. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes?
Come
Oh,
on.
that is correct.
Yes.
You know, and so, I've been awarded with a resentencing. I have a resentencing for from Division 2, the appellate court. You know what I'm saying, that is essentially told the trial court that they must resentence me and consider my age and my capacity to rehabilitate myself at resentencing. And so March 25th, 1:30, Pierce County Superior Court. I will be going back to get resentenced, and hopefully, the court is able to to really weigh not only the the horrible decision I made, but also some of the decisions that I've made as a way of being able to get my life on track in his decision.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
I'm definitely looking forward to it. Yeah, I have an opportunity of freedom.
Right.
Well, I'm going to do a lot, but in case we have to wrap this before we can come back, Kimonti, I just want to say I think the world of you, and I have such great admiration for what you've done, both through the Black Prisoners Caucus, but also in being such a proponent of Teach and making that happen.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
It's
Okay.
inspirational.
Right.
It might, and we probably might wrap. So
We're gonna wrap, yeah.
call back. Yeah.
Right.
But I
Yeah.
want to say this for everybody who's hearing this now, in the email that we send out with this interview, there is an address. Like, you can actually do something. You can send letters to the judge, right? If you've seen the insanity of giving any youth 777 years without any chance of parole, because there is none in Washington State, which is a whole nother conversation that would have to bring Gilda and Tonya and Kimonti back for. It's mind blowing. You can do something. You can write,
Right.
and that actually does make a difference, I think.
Right. And you can find that on our website, at the name www.sinceibendown.com. People like to correct the grammar and say I, but no, it's patois. It's www.sinceibendown.com. And as a result of the film, I've sent the film to Kimonti's attorney. Asked me to send it to the prosecuting attorney in the case, as well as the hearing judge, and I have. We have developed a multi faith group, 700 people who are from the Jewish faith, Christian faiths, Islam, come together and saw the movie. And then 2 days later, about half of those came back to have a conversation with the three of us. Yeah, it was the three of us, right? And just recently, that multi-faith group has grown, and now are showing the film, like one Baptist church with a synagogue coming together, and and discussing their sacred text and what does justice and transformation, what do their belief systems have to do with that? So this is, yes, it is particular, but it's also universal. Those universal things like, healing, like love, like the possibility of transformation is what, the power of art. But this is just not art for art's sake. It is the power to embrace people's stories so that we can be better human beings, so that we can see the humanity. And it has caught people. I mean, now this multi-faith group and other groups, we had a lobby day where we came, saw clips from the film, and then went off to our legislators and senators. And so it is pushing things. But, Warren, what we do is we use our privilege in a responsible way. We open the curtain to the stage that's already set. I mean, it's a shame that I did not know about a Black Prisoners Caucus. That has been going on for 40 years when I met that. And it's not unique. What we found is that these prisoner initiated programs, not just somebody outside coming in. I'm not poo-pooing nobody's other thing. These prisoner initiated programs have punctuated our history for a long time, but we don't hear about them. Don't hear about the possibility of healing where a person, as Tonya said, can be, and not be punished, right? So I just want to say that it has inspired a lot of transformative justice, not only restorative justice. We have legislative bills that we are supporting.
And so we can find out more since I've been down. And I want to reference something which I believe, Tonya, you bring up in the movies, this idea that we're all, or the vast majority of us Americans, are captives in the same system. It's just a matter of our level of awareness of our captivity. And so because of that, we all have a role. We're all complicit in some manner and have to really examine what we can do to change things. I know, Gilda, that you are doing it on many levels, both through teaching not only at Evergreen, but also in prisons throughout the state, as you have over the years. You're doing it through this movie, which is incredible and actually does open our eyes to things that we should know about, but simply have not. And Tonya, thank you so much, not only for being a role model for others, but actually not only getting back, but giving back and doing it with a whole heart and a big brain to shame the rest of us. And even though he's not here, a big thank you and bless you for Kimonti Carter, who Kimonti really life-changing for me in terms of both underscoring some beliefs I've had, but seeing something in practice, seeing people practice passion to fulfill their dreams and to follow what they believe in and to keep hope and to have forgiveness and just keep on going, not giving up, as you say. That means the world. So anybody who sees this movie should get it, but Kimonti, just know you're converting us one at a time. Anybody who's watching, we're on your side.
Thank you, Warren, for allowing this platform. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. And that's what it takes, I thank you from the bottom, top, and middle of my heart.
Kimonti is on, so he can say, he was saying something.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I said, thank you, man, for your words, man. I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. I trust I will keep learning from you. And my good hope is that after March, maybe we'll see you out here and we'll celebrate you in person, right?
Without a doubt, without
Yes.
a doubt.
And Tonya, maybe Kimonti beats the odds and sticks the landing. Maybe goes, maybe goes Russian gymnast on us, and it's the perfect 10.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you,
Right.
Gilda Sheppard, Dr. Gilda Sheppard,
Oh,
Senator Tonya Wilson,
right.
and Dean Kimonti Carter. Thank you so much.
Oh, bless you. Yes, indeed. Okay. All right. Thank you. It's good to see you.
Good to see
All
you.
right. All
All
right.
right. Take care.
Call me, Ty. All right.
I will.
Okay.
I will.
Okay.